What is going on? What is going on? Tuesday. I tried to record this video a few times yesterday, but I wasn't stationary long enough to get it recorded. But now I am. I'm in the middle of nowhere in Cincinnati, Ohio, delivering a load, but what better way to do it, right? But anyway, so last week, Friday, going into Saturday, I saw that there was an uproar about Kevin Samuel, about getting him removed from social media. Now, I'm not here to talk about Kevin Samuel. What I'm here to talk about is what led me up to getting to the subject I want to talk about today. So, there were petitions created, because they're saying that his rhetoric is leading to violence. Obviously, it's been disparaging, demoralizing to women and things of that particular nature. So they're trying to seemingly get him off of social media, right? So I went to change.org, which is a website that I go to often because, again, as I said, I'm a part of a newsletter that I did not know I signed up for. And oftentimes they send petitions to get my electronic signature. And I don't quite understand the objective behind change.org. And, in layman's terms and gist, I say, okay, well, yeah, you sign a petition, you get the functionality of what people are thinking, but it doesn't seem like it maybe moved the needle the way that it should or whatever like that. But anyway, so as I'm looking at the Kevin Samuel petitions, I see one interesting petition come up. And it's the petition to rename the Edmund Pettus Bridge after John Lewis. I said, this is interesting, right? So if you don't know John Lewis, I'll just give you the brief information I know about John Lewis. He was a state representative for the state of Georgia. He was a participant in what is dubbed, or what is named now, Bloody Sunday, that transpired on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, in which his skull was fractured. He's also been a advocate for voting rights for minorities, because it's not fashionable to say African Americans, but he has been a voting rights advocate. He also has a bill that has been drafted called the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, right? It passed in the House, but it keeps the Senate doesn't want to pass it, and people are pushing it because it's supposed to be revolutionary, whatever that means. I might record. Well, I did a podcast on it, how I feel about that. So I think that'll be coming out. It'll be coming out later. But anyway, so that's John Lewis. Now, who's Edmund Pettus? Because the first thing that I see is when you want to rename something after somebody else, obviously the person that you want to change the name from, obviously they must have did some messed up stuff, right? So, Edmund Pettus was a senator for the state of Alabama. He was a part of the Confederacy, had a position in the Confederacy. He was also the Grand Dragon in the Klan in Alabama. I don't know the Klan's hierarchy, so I don't know if the Grand Dragon is a high position or is it an entry-level position, but I would assume that it may be a little high up there because you have grand in front of something, so grand can't equate to something that's minuscule. So I will say that. So I'm sure maybe somebody can look it up and see what Grand Dragon stands for, because I don't really know, and I wasn't enthused enough to go look at it, right? So that's what they want to do. Now, I'll preface this by saying, during the Trump presidency, right, what we saw was a lot of Confederate monuments come down. A lot of people looked at that as progress and stuff like that, and hey, and good for you. Good for you. But in 2017, the state of Alabama, being proactive, drafted a piece of legislation that stated that if basically a historical monument that is over 40 years old, you cannot change the name of it, right? Cannot change the name of it. So in order for them to actually, aside from getting the votes to do so, you will actually have to go in and repeal a law that was put into place in 2017 in order to get the bridge changed from Edmund Pettus to John Lewis, right? So you have the legal hurdle that you have to get. Also, there were some detractors who stated that basically John Lewis was not the only person that was on that bridge. And one particular woman I don't want to say question, but that was discussed within the article that I read, she was beaten unconscious on the bridge, right? So I'm not here to, pull straws to see who was beaten up worse, but the fact of the matter is a lot of people got beat on that bridge, right? So that was one of the first things that came to my mind. Is like, John Lewis wasn't the only person that was beating on that bridge, because it's almost like, in regards to how you feel about John Lewis, some people put him highly up there and stuff like that and things like that. I respect John Lewis for what he did, but what I've been seeing is I see they have a John Lewis movie that's in works, and John Lewis essentially has ascended to, and just me interpreting media, it's almost like he's on the same level as MLK and Malcolm. And I look at it, and my thing about John Lewis is just putting him in a particular place. I don't look at John Lewis as anything more than like Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson or people of that particular level. While y'all have made important strides, obviously Jesse Jackson ran for president and stuff like that. Al Sharpton, shows up anytime there's some stuff going on. But I don't look at it as a person that was a transcendent figure, so much so that you need to name a structure after him. And I also saw where John Lewis may be receiving a Nobel Peace Prize. And I'm sitting up here like, that man lived for so many years, and now y'all want to give stuff away when a person dies. So it's almost like you're building up the legend of John Lewis, right? And again, I'm not from Georgia, so maybe y'all love John Lewis to death or whatever like that, but I just look at it as like not putting it in basketball. But if I did put it in basketball terms, MLK was Jordan. John Lewis wasn't Scotty. John Lewis may have been like Steve Kerr or Horace Grant or something like that. Wasn't Dennis Rodman, right? So that's how I put it, right? My opinion, right? My opinion. But anyway, back to the situation at hand, right? So one of the things that I feel like is that prior to learning who Edmund Pettus was, because I just learned who Edmund Pettus was this past weekend. I'm not an Alabama person and stuff like that, but I feel like if you change, because one of the things that they said is you change the name of the bridge to John Lewis, and you put like a little placard or something on the bridge that talks about who Edmund Pettus was, right? To, whatever like that. But my thing is like, and then some of the people that's in the area, which I didn't think about this, but it's a tourist attraction. And some people felt that if you change the name from Edmund Pettus to John Lewis, then it would slow down tourism, right? It kind of equates to that whole thing that once you put a black face on it or you put a black name on it, the monetary value starts to diminish somewhat, right? So maybe they were talking about it from that sense. That's the sense that I got it from. Could be wrong, but that's the way I took it. But I feel like that if you do something like that, and I'll be the first to admit, I'm not one of those people that are jumping up and down saying, "Hey, take this statue down, or take this statue down, take this statue down," because I look at the bigger picture, and the bigger picture is when you see certain things out, you do the research on it, right? You do research and you look around and say, okay, well, who is that person? Okay, what was that person about? But if you take that away, and maybe I'm speaking because I drive, because I go through a lot of different places and I see like different monuments and stuff like that, and people, with names, sometimes it's visible, sometimes it's not. And you kind of look, but if you take that away, then you know that from a particular standpoint, we're not going to talk about it amongst ourselves. Like, nobody's just having a conversation like, hey, man, let's go talk about Robert E. Lee today, right? Or let's go talk about Jefferson Davis, even though within Mississippi there's a Jefferson Davis County. But I don't think that people in Jeff Davis County are going around saying, you know, we need to change the name of this county from Jeff Davis County, you know, to something else because Jefferson Davis, you know, was what it was or whatever like that. Because some people may feel like, well, you have to eradicate the evil and all this stuff. But I feel like this. If they didn't look to eradicate the evil at the conclusion of the Civil War, then the question becomes, did they feel it was really evil? Did they really feel it was so bad? Because they didn't actually, they were proven to be to exhibit treason, right? They were traitors. They weren't treated as such, right? So, you know, that's another discussion. But anyway, but I don't feel like you should take stuff down because those things are, you know, are learning points. And so people can go to the particular bridge, and I feel like you can look and say, okay, this particular person was here. I don't want to erase people from history because I think it kind of gets to the same point that some black people feel that history has been whitewashed. But it's like, okay, well, now we're trying to blackwash history, right? If anything, if you want to do that, if you wanted to put a monument or a statue next to the Edmund Pettus Bridge of John Lewis beside it, then do that. But just renaming the entire bridge and then maybe putting like a little placard of Edmund Pettus right there, I mean, I feel like it diminishes it. Obviously, you want to say, since John Lewis' name is bigger than Edmund Pettus' name, then you can say that good succeeded evil, you know, if that's the way that you want to put it. But at the same time, I'm just like, nah, you know, I ain't tripping about that. About so much so hung up on changing names of monuments or taking monuments down and stuff like that, because it makes certain people feel good about, like, that's progress. Nah, progress would be petitioning to get more monuments put up of people that fought these particular people. That's progress. All you're doing is taking 2 steps back. Like, nah, put another monument over there and we work it like that. But anyway, and in conclusion, some of the state reps that were talking about getting the bridge named after John Lewis, they said that ultimately it should be left up to the citizens of Selma, if they do get to that particular point, as to what they want the bridge to be named after, right? So it may not even be a situation with John Lewis. And like I said, some of the proponents of it were like, what better way to honor John Lewis? And then they tried to politicize it and say, well, no, even if we named after John Lewis, it's not showing that we're showing any type of favoritism. And favoritism wasn't the word, but favoritism is the word I'm using because of my limited vocabulary. But it's not showing favoritism towards John Lewis. It's just showing that what his initiative and what his mission was, which again was a mission of the same people was Dr. King, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton. So it's like y'all are trying to individualize something, right? But it would show that his vision, his thoughts and stuff like that would have prevailed, right? So that's the way they look at it. But anyway, that's the end of that, man. I'm going to try to get unloaded. I'm going to holler at y'all good peeps tomorrow. Y'all be safe. And stay safe.